Well, Megan, I'll tell you, I joined the Navy in 1939.
Okay, wait, this is,
Pardon?
what's your name?
My name is Joe Feld,
AKA Grandpa Feld.
and I joined the Navy in 1939 in St. Louis, went to San Diego, went aboard a carrier, the USS Enterprise. We operated between San Diego and Hawaii. I was on temporary duty in Pearl Harbor when the war broke out. There were about 30 of us from the Enterprise that repaired airplanes, put in new equipment, and when the carrier would leave Honolulu or Ediport, then we would go back aboard and go to the next port. So that was the reason I happened to be in Pearl Harbor when the war started. It was 8 o'clock in the morning on December 7th. We were just getting ready to go down and have breakfast, and I heard an explosion at the end of Fort Island. I thought it was one of our planes had crashed. I went to the window of the barracks to look out to see what had happened, and I saw a Japanese fighter plane strafing, that is machine gunning, our planes on the airstrip. So the war wasn't very old, and I knew it was real. I was one of the first ones, I guess, to really realize that we were under attack. And this, they did not bomb the island, Fort Island, that much, but all the battleships that were sunk and damaged were tied up to this island. So consequently, we had lots of activity happening there. The fires that happened from the bombs were unbelievable. They just were, hundreds of the flames were like 100 feet high up in the water was burning. It was a very, very traumatic experience. And of course, we didn't expect it. And we really weren't prepared for it either. So after Pearl Harbor, I went back aboard the carrier Enterprise. The Enterprise was the most decorated ship in the Navy during the war. It received 20 Presidential Unit citations. I was aboard for 10 of them. I was aboard when it went and escorted the USS Hornet to Japan when Doolittle and his group bombed Japan. I was aboarded at the Battle of Midway, which was really the big turning point for us during the war. And I was with it, the Enterprise during all the battles down in the South Pacific around Guadalcanal. And this is where we, as a ship, were bombed very, very hard. The Japanese wanted to take Guadalcanal back. We wanted to keep it. And it was really a battle for, well, I guess it went on for a month, off and on. So, any questions you have?
How old were you in the war?
I was 20 years old. I was 20 years old in November, and the war started in December. So I had joined the Navy to see the world, but I didn't expect to see all this. Like I say, we really didn't expect anything like this. The United States, England, and all of Europe was at war with Germany and Italy. Japan was sort of on the fence. It was figured that if Japan ever got into the war, it would join Germany and Italy. But we didn't expect it this way. You know, we didn't expect it to happen this way. No. I came back to the Enterprise, came back to the United States in 1943. I left the Enterprise and spent the rest of the war at different air bases around in California.
What did you do?
I was an aviation metalsmith. Our job as metalsmiths was to repair the planes when they were damaged, to help put new equipment in when it was needed, new radio equipment, anything that had to be done to the planes other than the engines. The aviation machinist mates take care of the engine part of it. We took care of the wings, the fuselage, any holes. At one point during the war, I would go up, as the pilots landed, I would go up to the plane, and if they knew of any holes that had been shot into the plane, and then I had a kit that I would try and repair them right there, as almost right on the spot. So and we did, like I say, mostly repairing of planes that were damaged one way or the other, either bumping into each other or planes that had been shot, had holes in them, and so try to get them to fly again.
What type of planes did you repair?
I'm sorry, what?
What type of planes did you repair?
All right. The squadron that I belonged to was a bombing squadron, a dive bombing squadron. They were absolutely excellent. They were just outstanding. At the Battle of Midway, our squadron was just renowned for making hits on the Japanese carriers that were out there. We worked on all different kinds of planes, especially when I came back to the States after leaving the Enterprise. We worked on whatever airplanes happened to come into that base at that where I was stationed. I was stationed at Crow's Landing, which is in California, down near Modesto, and then over at Watsonville. And we would get all different kinds of planes in. That work there was mostly putting in equipment, getting the planes ready to go overseas.
What was it like to live there? Did you all have your own separate rooms, or were there bunks?
On ship or where?
How about on ship?
On ship, we lived very, very close quarters. You had bunks in maybe 3, 4 high, depending on, and they would be just a couple feet from one another, and you just slept one on top of the other. In our shop, I slept, and most of us that were metalsmiths, we slept and had bunks right in our shop. So we lived right there in the shop. Now, when one of the bombs hit the Enterprise, it hit right above our shop and just about blew the shop out completely. There were only 3 or 4 of us that got back safe and sound. I imagine there were about 30 of us in the metalsmith department, and after the bombing, there were a number of them that were killed, and then there were a number that were injured. And there were only about 3 or 4 of us that survived completely without any real damage to us. I mean, it's just, when you go through anything like that, it's just a matter of luck as to where you happen to be at any particular time. I mean, there's no safe place. There's nothing safe to do. It's just absolute luck that you get through. I took off a life jacket one day. A fella asked me, says, Joe, what's the matter with your life jacket? We had these big, heavy life jackets, what they call Bay West. I had a big collar. And I said, why? He says, the back of it's all torn. Anyway, I had a piece of shrapnel, which is like a fragment of a bomb, was embedded in the collar of my life jacket. So that's just how lucky you can be, you know.
What was probably the worst experience for you in the war?
Oh, I don't know. You just, when you're going under attack, when you're being bombed, and we were bombed very, very hard. I mean, just very hard. all you do is try and think from minute to minute as to what you're going to do next. I mean, you always expecting that maybe you'll be blown over the side or who knows what. And you're trying to think whether one particular experience is any worse than the other. I don't know. It's so hectic. Between the gun shooting, and these are big guns. I mean, these guns will just, if you're standing there and one of these guns go off, it'll knock you right off your feet. I mean, it'll just absolutely, the concussion of the gun going off. So between the gun shooting and the bombs hitting, you're in sort of a daze. That's all. You're just kind of going from just trying to hang on to something and hope you get through it. That's all. Pearl Harbor, when the war started at Pearl Harbor, we thought the Japanese were going to come in and take over the island. So that was hectic. I don't think we slept maybe for the Japanese to come in and to invade the island. But they didn't. They didn't. It wasn't what they wanted to do. They did what they wanted to do by stymieing our fleet and our airstrips, our airplanes. We were very lucky that no carrier happened to be in Pearl Harbor that day. The Enterprise was about 1 day out coming in. We were all packed up to go back aboard because we were going to go back to San Diego on the 13th of December. So the USS Saratoga, another carrier, had just left on Saturday. So consequently, we were very lucky that they didn't get any carrier when they might have gotten two. And so the worst part, the worst part of the war for me was they asked us to go down and help get the men from the battleships up to the barracks to bring them up. And these, you have to understand, these men were in bad shape, and I had never been around any kind of medical work or anything like that. So that was really the toughest thing to do. It just was something I wasn't equipped to do at all. So other than that, you just went from one time to another. I mean, you went from one place to another, and it was to see the planes take off for Tokyo. Doolittle and a B-25 bombers was an experience. They didn't do that much harm or anything, but it was a morale builder. I mean, everybody was glad that they, did it and that we got back from it. I don't know that it was such a smart move, but it was. Anyway, we did get back, and the USS Hornet and the Enterprise were together on that.
So the Enterprise wasn't destroyed in the bombing of Pearl Harbor?
The Enterprise wasn't. The Enterprise was about 100 miles away. One of the ships that the Enterprise had been with was having problems. So the Enterprise stayed back in case it had to be towed into the harbor. So we were to go back aboard on Saturday, the December 6th. The Enterprise didn't come in, and we went ashore, and we were going to go aboard on Sunday, December 7th. Well, the Enterprise was still about 100 miles away when the raid started.
Okay.
And it survived the whole war. It was the only carrier that really made it all the way through the war.
So you went back on the Enterprise after the bombing?
We went back on the Enterprise. I think probably it was, I know I spent that Christmas still at Pearl Harbor. And I think it was probably the middle of January or something like that. I went back aboard the Enterprise. If I had any brains, I would have stayed on the island. It was much safer than the Enterprise. But anyway, it was, the Enterprise, it's just absolutely amazing, the battles that it went through and how many times the Japanese put out reports that they had sunk us. I mean, in fact, it was sort of known as the Galpin Ghost of the Oahu Coast. So which, because it was here and there and here and there, we just went from one place to another. And managed to survive. But it was bombed. I read one time that it was one of the bombings that down there by Guadalcanal. It was the heaviest bombing ever of any U.S. Navy installation, ship, building, anything. It was, I don't know how many, there were like 100 and some odd planes attacked us in less than an hour. And it was, it was no fun. So, what else? What else can I tell you? But it's a, you know, it's a terrible experience. War's a terrible, terrible experience. There's no question about it.
Did you join on your own behalf, or were you drafted?
I'm sorry, honey.
Did you join on your own
Oh
behalf?
yeah. I joined in 1939 after I graduated from high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had a brother in the Navy, so I joined. There was no draft then. There was no drafting or anything. In fact, it was kind of hard to get in. You really had to pass a lot of exams, both physical and academic exams to get in. And I was on a cruise which was to last until my 21st birthday. Well, of course, when the war broke out, that was the end of that. I mean, they didn't care when your birthday was. So, but I went to boot camp in San Diego and spent the whole time of my Navy on the West Coast, either the West Coast or in the Pacific. Spent 6.5 years in, and that was enough.
If you could go back, would you still join the Army and everything?
I'm sorry, hey?
If you could go back, would you still join?
I don't know. Oh, I would, sure. You know, I would volunteer to join the service or anything like that if they needed me. There's no question about that, because if someone doesn't do it, there's not going to be any, you know. So, but it's nothing that I would relish doing. I would hope that that no one has to do it. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible way of settling things. But I don't know what the answer is. What else is how to do it otherwise. I have no. The Japanese were doing what they figured was right for their country, I guess, and Germany was doing what they thought was right for their country, and it's a hell of a mess is what it is when they all get together and, try and shoot each other and bomb each other and everything like that. But I guess it's going on since the beginning of time, and I suppose it'll continue to go on. So I wasn't hurt at all. The closest thing to being hurt, it was when one of the bombs hit, the flash from the bomb burnt my lips all inside here. They were kind of blackened. Instead of being pink or whatever color they should be, they were kind of charcoal from the moisture from the flash of the bomb. But other than that, though, I really I came back all in one piece, and just by luck. The dear Lord looked out for me.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm sorry?
Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think that's pretty much it. If there are any questions you have,
Can't think of
no, that's pretty much it, I think, hon.
it. Okay.
Okay.